start by giving you an overview of the ministerial, and then he'll be happy to take your questions.
Good afternoon. Over the next 2 days, NATO defense ministers will make decisions to address the changed security environment we are facing. We will continue adapting our deterrence and defense to meet the threats from any direction. Effective deterrence and defense requires both forward presence of allied forces and our ability to reinforce them quickly if needed. I expect ministers to agree to enhance our forward presence in the eastern part of our alliance. This will bolster our collective defense, and at the same time send a powerful signal to deter any aggression or intimidation. We have already strengthened our military presence in the region, and we are setting up 8 small headquarters to support planning, exercises and reinforcements. Moreover, we give strong political support for Ukraine, the independence, the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. But of course, we then also support the efforts to find and to implement a negotiated peaceful solution to the conflict in Ukraine. And therefore, I think it is so extremely important that the Minsk agreements are fully implemented, meaning a ceasefire, the withdrawal of heavy weapons, and not least that the international monitors have full access so they can monitor and make sure that the agreement is fully implemented.
Do you hope that the U.S. contribution will spur allies to increase their contribution specifically to a NATO force in Eastern Europe? And why? And if you could also talk about your efforts to have a dialogue with Russia, where does that stand in terms of having actual conversations between NATO and Russia at this point?
The U.S. is showing leadership, and I think it's a very important decision. This is actually a plan, a request, a budget, which is now going to be decided in the Congress. But at least the budget request is something I welcome very much, and it shows strong U.S. leadership. I think this is also important because it's a signal to European NATO allies that they have to also to step up. And they're actually doing that because we see now that more and more NATO allies in Europe are also increasing their defense investments. And 2015 was the first year after many years of substantial cuts in defense spending, where we saw at least that the cuts practically stopped. And as a first step, this is an important step, but of course the European allies have to do more, but to stop the cuts is at least the first step towards increased defense spending in the years to follow.